So Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War Core 2 is officially over, and I have many thoughts about it, and I'm here to talk about it and give it my honest review and takes. So, let's talk about it. I think I'm going to start off the bat with one of the things I did not like about this core, and then I'll go and gush over everything else about it. I think the main first thing that kind of comes and is kind of glaring to me in this second core is lack of Ichigo. And what I mean by that is, I mean, the core starts out and we do see Ichigo and we do see him training with Ichibei, who was the final, I guess you would consider him the head captain of the Zero Division, the final trial, if you will, for Ichigo. And apparently this is stuff that we don't see in the manga, so it is interesting to see it here. But there is a big lack of Ichigo, a big lack of the main character throughout the series, and it's kind of interesting because this core really does take advantage of taking the other side characters that aren't... There's a lot of characters in Bleach, and there's a lot of backstory to them and a lot of fleshing out, and just in general, a handful of characters, and probably more than a handful, that people just straight up love, and they want to see done justice, and we get to see that here in this core. A lot of fights between different people, Kenpachi, Toshido, Renji, Rukia, so many different moments in this core that are very important and pivotal to the main war. But Ichigo does not pop up until very later, and it is something that I did kind of feel throughout the core, and it was something that at first I wasn't sure about because I was like, okay, Ichigo he cooking something, but obviously in the back of my head I was like, this whole series has not been so far, not series, but this core so far has been very lackluster of an MC. And sometimes that happens with Jujutsu Kaisen. That happens sometimes in Dragon Ball. That's the case where you don't see Goku and the focus is like on Gohan, Piccolo, or Krillin and the other Z fighters. So it's not always a detriment to the series. And in this particular core, I don't think it's that big of a glaring issue, but for me it did kind of put me off a little bit, and so I did kind of put it there as one of the main negatives because I felt like Ichigo does show up at the very end, but it's like brief. He has his moment and then instantly leaves, and the core ends. So yeah, I guess I'm just a little bittersweet that I didn't get to see enough of Ichigo, enough of the #1 Soul Reaper. But with that being said, the core has a lot to offer. I do think the ending of the core of 4-1 is better than the ending of this core, but only for the simple fact that that felt like a ending to end on. And if like the series wanted it to have like an ending like that, it would have been like immaculate. But this ending is more of a lead on and more of a like we're continuing straight off in core 3, which is fine. It just doesn't feel like a proper bow to the full core, if that makes any sense. But there's a lot of fights, and I think I want to highlight two of them that are, in my opinion, the ones that kind of stole the show, I want to say. First one being Rukia. So once Rukia has her fight, she has her with Asnot, the one who basically bodied Byakuya, and so Rukia is there to get her get back.
Are you scared?
To defend her brother's honor and to defeat the ops, and the ops being Asnot, the guy that stole Byakuya's Bankai. And I think this fight is just truly incredible. I think this fight is just amazing on the front of the animation, amazing on the front of the moment for Rukia, amazing on the front of we get to see Rukia's Bankai, and it's a very uncontrollable one, and it's actually interesting because it puts Rukia in this zero starting point where she kind of was at the beginning of the series, which a lot of people, tend to forget that Rukia was at possibly like a similar state of growth that Ichigo was when they first met, and seeing her come to this state is just it's exciting, and it's exciting to see that her Bankai isn't quite one that she can just overthrow somebody right away. Like, there are chinks in the armor per se, but that's a good thing, and it's a good thing because that means Rukia has room to grow again, and that means that she can grow to control her Bankai even more. And actually, I feel like I lied. Okay, I wanted to put it down to 2 fights that are memorable, but honestly, there's so many moments in the core that I'm just gonna gush Renji shows up before Rukia.
Bunkai.
He did training in the Soul Palace with Ichigo, so you would think he would come up with something far superior to what he had before. And yeah, that's what he does. His Zabimaru is now, I want to say, perfected. His Bankai is different. His Shikai is different. Everything, when he revealed his Bankai, he just bodied dude. He bodied dude. Dude was bodying 2 captains, and Renji just comes up and is like, hey, Bankai, and then just destroys him with the monkey arm and the snake. Bro, it was so sick to see, and it was awesome just to have give Renji a moment. I mean, Renji for a period of time felt like the Yamcha of the group, if you will. But now he has a moment, and it's cool to see because obviously Rukia follows him after that with her Bankai, and it's kind of just nice to see the development of these characters. Because in this Cour, it sort of very, not subtly, but very much so, just starts out at the war. It just, the Quincy's continue their attack, basically. They pull up again, and it's one that Shunsui, I think, anticipated, and I think he's like, okay, here we go, type of situation, because he meets with Uryu and Jugrum, 2 right-hand mans to Yuhubak, and they basically show up. They have a moment there. They have things going on, but it's interesting because we also see Kisuke Urahara show up. All of that's happening. Everyone shows up, and there's, again, these moments happen with Renji, with Rukia. Kenpachi comes back. He shows up. He fights a character by the name of Gremi, a character that on paper looks very overpowered and looks like just OP. Like, I can't believe that Kenpachi bodied this kid, because this kid looked like he could just create anything out of anything. Basically, that's basically what his power is that he could just imagine something and then it just becomes reality. And how do you beat something like that? Well, you just become a crazy person that has no sense of defeat and force your opponent to imagine defeat. That's just right. It just sounds crazy, right? But that's what happens. That's what Kenpachi does, and he just bodies him. And at that point, that's when Ichigo does show up, and that's when Ichigo shows off his new powers with his new Shikai. But I want to backtrack a little bit more, because there is another fight that I actually did quite enjoy of Sajin. So we do see in the first Cour, Sajin gets bodied, and he goes to basically his old clan. And if you know anything about Sajin, it's obvious. He's a dog. He got that dog in him, literally. He is a dog. So he goes back to his clan, and he basically asks for help. And that's his training for this Cour. And he shows up and has a new ability, one that is unique to him and his clan. And that is turning himself back into a human for the time being, to give him extra, basically, immortality, if you will, but also just, it's basically just, for simple terms, it's a power-up. And he fights Bambietta, who basically had a outing with him in the first Cour, and she basically bodied him. Sajin has a fight with Bambietta, and it goes it's pretty sick, man. I will say it was like the first, I want to say, big fight that looked really cool. The CGI on Sajin's Bankai was actually not bad too. I think the CGI held up pretty well, and I think it just overall, the fight looked really, really good. So those were big highlights for me, was Rukia, seeing Renji, but mostly Rukia's moment to me was one of a big highlight. Sajin's fight was really well done. I do wish we got to see more Ichigo, but it is what it is. We're going to see a lot more of him, I'm sure, in Cour 3 and 4. And there's the Cour ends with the battle in the Soul Palace. So the Quincy's Yuhabak, Uryu, and his right-hand man, I just forgot his name, but they go up to the Soul Palace, basically where Ichigo came from. Ichigo basically made a hole for them to enter, because he came down from the Soul Palace, and once he came down and opened the barrier to the Soul Palace, that's when Yuhabak was like,
All right, let's go.
and then they go to the Soul Palace, and that's where the Cour ends, if you will, where they show up to the Zero Division. The Royal Guard is there, and they're there to have a fight. And mid-fight between Ichibei and Yuhabak, that's where the Cour ends. So overall, I really did enjoy the Cour. I thought it started out a lot slower than what I was anticipating, and it felt a little bit like not as fast-paced as maybe like other parts of this season, but it ended very well. There was a lot of high moments that I can't wait to go back and rewatch with the English dub and Spanish dub. A lot of moments that I enjoyed very much that made me lose my goddamn mind. But you guys let me know what you guys thought of the Cour. Did you guys enjoy Cour number 2? Was it as good as Cour number 1? Because I feel like Cour number 1 was so good, especially the way when they adapted everything but the rain at the ending of that it was kind of hard to follow that up right away. But I think they did a really good job. The animation so far for Bleach, I know online there's always like talks about like animation this, animation that, but I think the animation for the Thousand Year Blood War is very well done, man. It just feels like a movie every time that I'm watching an episode, and it's really cool. The bar is set super high, so whenever they have like one that's not as high, people treat it like it's garbage and trash. But honestly, as a full like series so far, adapting this new arc for Bleach, it's really fucking good. But yeah, like I said, you guys let me know what you guys think. This is where I'm ending the YouTube video, so if you watched it, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for being here. But if you do want to see me talk about more moments of this Cour, because obviously there's more moments, Squad Zero fighting the Quincy's, there's a lot to delve into there. And if you want to talk, and if you want to see me talk about that, you can go to my website, revoart.com, become a member. If you become a member, you get exclusive video content like this one now. With that being said, I'm gonna go talk about the other things that I've really liked. And if you would like to see me do that, again, become a member, revoart.com. That's REVXR.com. I hope to see you there.